So we're going to start with our front pattern. Start measuring out our lapel edge. Lapel is 1.5 inches. Now we'll measure out our buttonhole allowance, 1 inch. So I'll measure out my shoulder. Shoulder is 7 1/4. Neckline width is 2 3/4. And your shoulder slant, 1.5 inches. You draw for the line for the armhole. Now measure out 7.5 inches. On that line, that's the bust. I'll measure out 9.5. Then 2/3 of my armhole for the position of my dent, that's 5 inches. Now mark in 1.5 inches. Immediately I'll draw the line for my suppression gap. I'll use 2.5 inches. So now curve it. Okay, so we now measure out our shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, and the length of our jacket. Shoulder to bust, 11.5, shoulder to waist, 16, and the length of the jacket is 24 inches. Eleven and a half, 16, 24. So I'll mark out my bust measurement here. That's 9.5. On this line, I mark out my bust span, which is 3.5 inches. I immediately curve that here. And I'll curve this one here. So now measure out the curve here and transfer it here. That's 5.5 inches. Transfer it here. Now measure out 1 inch down here and curve to that point. You can see that we've already gotten out our new bust point here. So I'll measure out 3.5 inches, which is the bust span, all the way down. Then on the waist, I measure out my darts. So what I'm left here with is 3 inches. I need to measure 5.5 to make up my waist. I told you it's just like straight. So I'll now measure my hip measurement here, which is 10.5 inches. So I come back to this point here, measure out 5 inches for my neckline depth for the front. Now curve that there. I come to the waistline here. Now I'll begin to curve it to that point. Okay, so we've gotten our curve there now. So now let's draw a line and make our back pattern. This is the front pattern here, so we now make the back pattern. I come to the top, measure out my shoulder, 7 1/4 inches. My neckline width, 2 3/4. Shoulder slant, 1.5. Half inch for my neckline depth at the back. Draw my armhole. Seven and a half inches. I get my midpoint there. That's 3 3/4 inches. Measuring 1/2 inch. And my bust measurement here, 9.5. Okay, good. So I measure out my shoulder to bust, shoulder to waist, and the length of the blouse. Don't forget we subtracted 1/2 inch from the shoulder to waist. So that means our shoulder to waist will now be 15.5 inches. So we measure 11.5, 15.5, and 24. Same here. 11.5, 15.5, and 24. So I measure my bust measurement here, 9.5 inches. Draw the line. And I come to my armhole level here and divide my bust directly into 2. That will be 4 3/4. So I just curve this to meet this here. You can see the very slight slant. I measure 4 3/4 here also. So I come here to the back here, the waistline here. I measure 3/4 of an inch here. And I come here, measure 4 inches as the top here. I'll draw the line. So I come here, measure my 1/4 of an inch on either side. So I measure what is left here. What is left here is 3 3/4. So I need to balance it up here. I need like 4 3/4 here. So you can see it comes out gently. And then on the hip, I measure out my 10.5 inches. So it shoots out slightly, so all I will do, I'll just increase my bust gently, because if you look at this place here, you will see that we already have eaten in here. Look at this place here. We've eaten into like about 1/2 inch, so we'll just shift it out here by an extra 1/2 inch. So this would now become straight. Once you've taken this part here, there's a need for you to shift it here. And then you now curve it here. Okay, so we've done our front pattern, our back pattern. What's left for us to do now is our sleeve. So I'll draw the line here. And I'll measure out my armhole depth. My armhole depth is 7.5 plus 1. That will give me like 8.5 inches. Measure that on the other side. So, and I'll measure out the length of my sleeve. Length of my sleeve is also 8.5 inches. So I'll measure up my slip boxes. I'm using 3 inches each. And my midpoint here is 4 1/4. So I have A, B, C, D. So I start my curve from here, going into the intersection there. And I'll come out here. My 6.5 inches. So now we've made out our patterns, the front pattern, the back pattern, and our sleeve. So we'll cut them all out now. Now when we're cutting out the princess cut on this side, we'll just add extra 1 inch to make up for it. Now you can see that we have some space here. I won't cut that out. Now that will help to augment the difference that we have removed here, so that by the time we place it here, it just balances up. You can see that. So you can always do that just to balance it up. Once you just take out that 1 inch here, you just add another extra inch to this base so that it will just balance up. By the time you place it on your back piece, it balances out. You can see that. So always remember to do that. I'll also leave this one here just in case, so that if for instance I need to trim that off, I can trim it off later, but I will leave this 1 inch here also so that it can also balance up. But if we have any excess, we'll trim that off. We have our pieces here. So we've cut out the pieces now. So we're going to pick our material and then cut it out.